Hey, what's up guys? Victor Muncevice with Line 6 here at Sam Ash, and today I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about the Firehawk FX floorboard unit. So let's jump right in and take a look at the unit itself, right? Traditional floorboard, tons of things to step on, some traditional control laid out here. Let's talk about what all this stuff does. So Firehawk FX, inside of it we've got the largest collection of amp, effects, and cabinet models that we've ever had inside of one unit. So over 200 total. This is drawing from our classic sounds, things coming from Pod Farm, as well as our Pod HD 500X model. So we have HD amplifier models, HD overdrives, and HD reverbs coming from our newer sound set. So as far as the physical layout of the board, we've got our traditional, if you're used to Line 6's sort of layout, we have our traditional A, B, C, and D preset switches here on the bottom. Pressing these will allow me to scroll through a couple different presets. I have my bank up and down buttons to the left of that, which allow me to run through 32 different banks of A, B, C, and D. So in total, we have 128 presets on the unit itself. We've got traditional controls here for my amplifier, so things like drive, EQ, as well as an effects knob, which lets me control one of the onboard effects, and a dedicated reverb knob. The top switches here, labeled FS1 through 5, they're also conveniently color-coded, are individual effects happening inside of that preset. So if my ambient delay preset has a little too much delay, I can pull one of those off. I can pull both those off. I can even turn my reverb on and off. So this sort of follows Line 6's color scheme of effect types. So oranges will be reverbs, greens will be delays, yellows will be gain-based effects, things like compression and overdrive, and blues will be our modulations. So as far as controls here on the top, we have our traditional amp face value control, so things like drive, EQ, a dedicated effects knob just to control the mix of one of our effects inside of the preset, and a dedicated reverb knob. We also have our Bluetooth button. This is what we're going to use to connect to our smart device to use our remote editing app. And we have our overall volume control. What's cool here, this is a press-in button which allows us to control our overall volume, our guitar-only volume, or a blend of each. And that means that if we're connected through Bluetooth to a device and we're streaming audio, we have individual level controls for whatever we're streaming, as well as our guitar source. So as you can see, on the board itself, we've got quite a bit of control over what's happening in the preset. We can turn effects on and off individually, we can change presets completely, and we have our amp controls, our drive and EQ at face value. We can obviously use the remote graphic editing app, Firehawk Remote, to completely control every parameter if that's what we want to do. We use our smart device and we can get in, deep dive and tweak just about everything we want to set up. But if we don't feel like using a device, we can do it here on the board by pressing our bank up and down buttons at the same time. Now we see we've got a couple lights blinking back and forth, and this is just telling me everything that I have in my signal chain is ready to be edited. So if I feel like editing some amp parameters that I can't reach with just these guys, I tap the A, which corresponds to my amp, and now I see my power amp controls here. So I can adjust the presence of my amp from 100% down to 0%. To change the parameter that we're playing with, I simply tap again, and I can scroll through a whole set of different parameters, right? When I'm done with that, if I feel like editing one of my delays, I just tap it, and now all of its parameters show up. And I do the same thing where I adjust the actual parameter using the expression pedal. Or if I feel like fine-tuning and I don't want to use the expression pedal for wide sweeps, I can use the bank up and down for minor adjustments. Once I'm done and I have everything set up, I simply press those two buttons again, and I'm back to performance mode. So as you can see, there's a lot of control set up just in the board itself. So we've talked a little bit about the sounds that are happening and all the DSP inside of the box. Let's talk a little bit about the hardware itself. Starting with the I/O in the back, we've got room for an external expression pedal. So if you'd like to use the onboard supplied expression pedal to toggle back and forth between volume and wah pedal effects, you can do so. Or you can have a dedicated one for each. Have one controlling volume all the time, one dedicated specifically for your wah pedal and whammy pedal effects. Next up, we have our generic 1/4-inch guitar input. This is followed by our stereo effects loop. And what's cool about this is if you feel like there's just an effect that you've got an individual stomp box that's part of your sound, it's just part of the way you play and you don't want to give it up, you can incorporate that into your Firehawk system. And you can also assign that inside of the signal chain anywhere you'd like, assign it to a foot switch, and freely turn that effect on and off inside of your chain. So next up we have our outputs, our 1/4-inch outs and our balanced XLR outs, as well as headphones outs, and we also have connections here available for guys who would like to use a Variax guitar in conjunction with the Firehawk. This allows you to control Variax behavior the same way you control your presets here. Every single preset on board the hardware can also have an assignment for the Variax guitar. So I click a preset, it gives me a new amplifier, new chain of effects. It also tells my Variax guitar to change its style, its model, and its tuning. So all at the press of one button. There's also a USB for direct recording and for future firmware updates for the unit itself. And then last we have our power supply, 9-volt power supply and an on-off switch. So basically sums up the back here. All right, so that brings us to the end of Firehawk FX. You can see we've got tons of different sounds in here. Technically speaking, it's the largest collection of amp cabinets and effects that we've ever put into one unit, drawing from our classic sounds as well as some of our more modern HD amp models and effect models. Lots of versatility, super convenient, tons of control of what's going on, performance-based control as far as turning effects on and off, switching presets, or if you really feel like tweaking and getting deep dive, you can do that with the Remote app, which allows you to visually edit every aspect of your signal chain. So again, thank you guys for taking the time and watching. Be sure to check these things out at Sam Ash.